Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, connecting you with top-performing agents for 2% commission. Each week, we bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts, covering everything from staging to negotiation strategies to home inspection issues and everything in between. Whether you're selling your home, a first-time home buyer, or a seasoned investor, we've got you covered. Let's make your real estate dreams a reality in this fast-moving and ever-changing real estate market. This program is funded in whole or in part by Trusted Agent USA, Illinois license number 475-145-795. Now, here's Larry.
All right, everybody, welcome back, and we are happy to have you back on the Real Estate Radio Show. My name's Larry Shakman. I am going to be your host for the next hour, and I'm your real estate therapist, too, for the next hour. And I think after our topic that we're going to discuss today, I may need some real estate therapy, Patrick. I don't know.
A lot of people will.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, we're happy to have you here. We have a great show lined up. If you guys want to join the party, give us a call, 773-763-9278. And you can join us either by giving us a call or texting us. We'd love to have you join the conversation. We have two great guests today. So today is the kickoff of our influencers panel. And we have two great influencers on the show today. We're going to be joined by Wayne Paprocki, who is not only a real estate broker, but a national trainer and the former president of NASBAR, which is the North Shore Barrington Association of Realtors. And we also have with us my friend and pal and real estate attorney in Chicago, Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law. And we are going to be talking about shortly here the changes. There's new rules. The rules have changed. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the rules that are changing as a result of the class action lawsuit out of Missouri and the actions by the DOJ. So we'll have a lot to say about that before we jump into it. And by the way, those changes are coming fast. They are kicking in August 17th. I'm going to guess a lot of people have already kind of started doing what they have to do to adjust to those changes, but we will we'll talk about that and see. A little bit of house cleaning. Remember, again, real estate is a full contact sport, and this is a full contact show. So give us a call, 773-763-9278. You can also text us there. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and you can catch us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. So also, real quick reminder, the second Saturday of every month, we're going to be joined by luxury broker Michael LaFido for our series called Selling Luxury. Michael sells a lot of amazing homes in and around the Chicago metropolitan area, and he also helps other realtors get into that luxury space, which can be a little challenging. He did it. You can do it. He shows others how to do it. So if you're a real estate agent, you're going to want to tune in the second Saturday of every month for Selling Luxury with Michael LaFido. We have no question of the day today because we have a lot to talk about with Wayne and Patrick. Before we jump into it, we are going to cover a couple of headlines here, and then we're going to take a quick 30-second break and bring Wayne and Patrick on. So headline number one, Fannie Mae has revised their forecast. They're now predicting 2 Fed rate cuts. I don't know how you feel about that, Patrick, but 2 Fed rate cuts that they're looking at September and December. What do you think?
Well, we all are celebrating the idea of interest rate cuts because, they went up so much so fast, and it really, it gave people whiplash as far as what they could afford in terms of real estate. And, if the Fed is talking about cutting interest rates at this point, it means that they're seeing not only lower inflation, but it suggests that a softening of the economy. So, careful what you wish for when it comes to lower interest rates, because lowering interest rates could affect you not only in how much it will cost you on a monthly basis for your real estate, but also in other aspects of your economic life.
Yeah, no, you make great points, because actually the reason why they're suggesting this may happen now in September and December is because the job market is softening, and B, and this is good, the inflation outlook is getting a little better. Where they are, what's tied to that is also the CPI, and they're suggesting that the inflation rate, the annual inflation rate, is going to end up at about 2.9%, which is getting closer to that 2%, that 2% target that the Feds look at. Wayne, you got a lot of input on that. What do you think? You think the Feds are going to drop their rates?
I definitely agree they're going to drop them. I just was on the phone yesterday with Morgan Stanley and a Goldman Sachs person, and they both agreed they foresee 2 this year and then 3 more next year at a quarter.
3 more next year, okay.
Yeah, at a quarter each. So we're down 1.25, let's say a year from now. But that's their thought process as of yesterday. I do believe something else, and I always look at this. I look at the 3 things the Fed can do to control the money supply, but I also realize there's something called the Phillips curve, which is an inflation unemployment trade-off. So I've been confident that we're going to have to lower it because employment is slowly going up. And so we have to make that decision. If we want less unemployment, we have higher inflation.
Unemployment is slowly going up. Okay,
so now we're going to make the change. There's more people being unemployed, which means inflation should come down.
Right. Yeah.
And the prices, I don't know.
Well, we're seeing, prices come down a little bit because consumer demand is dampening a little. So you're seeing prices come down a little, not enough. But I don't know how much that has to do with inflation or just corporations know we're going to pay for it regardless of how much it costs. So they're not lowering the price. I don't know what your opinion is on that.
It's interesting you say that. I did a podcast about a year ago on different kinds of inflation, and that's the problem. There's some inflation that includes housing and energy and cars, others doesn't. There's crisis inflation, which a lot of companies have gotten into by adding prices when they didn't need to based on the crisis. There's headline inflation. So when you talk inflation, you're really talking, you got to know what inflation you're talking about. Figures don't lie, liars figure. And so you can move numbers around to make anything you want to be. And so if I'm quoting headline inflation versus core inflation versus personal inflation, I don't drive a car a lot. I don't go to the grocery store a lot. I'm worried about eating out and taking an Uber.
Yeah.
So my inflation is different than your inflation or Patrick's inflation.
Good point.
You got to always look at your personal inflation and then realize we do have some crisis inflation where companies have decided we can raise prices and pass it on as well. That's the economy when they never raised prices before.
Yeah. And of course, in an election year, you never know what surprises we're going to get and how that's going to drive the economy and all. Not that I want to get into politics now.
Larry, everything's been fine and smooth. Nothing going on in the news. I didn't find out some major news when I landed in Vegas the other day. No, everything's fine.
Yeah, no, we're going to be good. Another couple of headlines here real quick, and then we'll take a break and hop into our subject at hand here. So there's a 30% nationwide increase in listings, right? So inventory is going up a little bit. However, sales are still very soft. And I don't know what you guys think about that, but I don't see that changing much. I see inventory continuing to rise. I don't know if I see sales really, going up in any kind of hockey stick way. where we're going to see any great increase in sales. What do you guys think?
I think you have to take into consideration, real estate just by its nature is cyclical. When you've got kids in school and then they're not in school, and people are kind of like lemmings. They kind of just follow each other off the cliff, and so everyone who has kids who are and they're looking to put the kids in a particular school, they don't want to switch schools in the middle of the year. You know how it is, Larry. You've been doing this longer than I have.
Yeah.
And this kind of.
You don't have to date me.
Well,
Go ahead.
You're an experienced man. I feel like every year, and July is about the time that we've been going in real estate for about 6 months hard. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of suffer burnout, and people in real estate, they've got families, believe it or not. And those families want to go on vacation. They want to actually have some of your attention.
Consumers too, they go on vacation now. They're gone, so things slow down. Then we head into the back to school season. Wayne, what do you think the future holds in terms of sales? Lawrence Yun came out and said we're going to have like a 13% increase in sales, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, just as I'm concerned about different kinds of inflation, I really feel it's inappropriate to look at the macro market of housing and look at the micro markets. I do a lot of training in Austin and Houston. Those areas are going gangbusters. Austin appreciated 45% in 2022. 45%. That's an amazing figure. Houston and the suburbs are growing at tremendous rate.
Houston is always hot. It is always a hot real estate market.
I mean, I've got agents there that don't even bother to take pictures or stage. They'll sell stuff in hours.
Really?
Yes. And so that's a crazy market. Now you can find some other market. I was in North Carolina recently, whole different kind of market. Even in Chicago zip codes, it's a different world.
Yeah.
Look at the different zip codes in Chicago, and you'll see an amazing difference in what's happening in housing. So I really feel good agents, great agents, serious agents look at their micro picture in their marketplace and not get too hung up with all these averages and these big numbers that are congregations that are highs and lows. I mean, we're in Cook County. We have the highest range of low to high prices of any county in the country. Between Pittsburgh, Illinois, and Kenilworth, you can't look at averages or mid prices because it's way offset.
And I appreciate you saying that, Wayne, because I make this point every week. Real estate, and we all know this, it's local. It's always local. What's going on in Austin is not what's going on in Naperville, and so on.
Even block by block.
Block by block, and suburb by suburb, subdivision by subdivision. I mean, it's local.
I'm in the South Loop. It has not been a hot market. Since before things went crazy back in 2020. River North, Streeterville, Gold Coast. These are all areas where, we're looking around and we're going, wow, what is it? What must that inflation feel or appreciation feel like? Because, I look at, I'm going to say the bad word. I look at my Zillow estimate on my place, and it's just like,
do not look at your Zillow estimate.
It just goes, not you, buddy, not for you.
Yeah, and Wayne, you live on the North Shore, and that's a screaming market. That market has still got legs, and the buyer's market in general in Chicago Metro is still extremely active. There are a good amount of buyers out there right now still. Not a lot of product on the market, not a lot of houses out there, so it's tough. It's a tough deal right now for people.
And
in my building, there's not one available, not a single one.
What?
In my building, there's not a single unit available. 184 units, 0 are for sale.
And what were you going to say, Wayne?
I was going to say Patrick's point's well taken. In Northbrook, we've had a very slow sales volume above 2 million. Somewhere between 900 and 1.5, going like crazy. I just had a $2.5 million listing go under contract, closing next week. It's taken a long time to do that.
Yeah.
But even within a range of prices in certain communities, it's a whole different world in terms of days on market, absorption rate, whatever you want to use to figure out your potential.
Yeah, different price points obviously are going to show different types of activity. The luxury market though has been pretty good. It's really held its own in the last, it's just compares very favorably to the bread and butter market. It's still moving. And so I don't know what that says one way or another, but yeah, the bread and butter the luxury market is still moving. You and Mike just got that property under contract a couple weeks ago. Like you said, it took a while under contract. We sold this auction property out in Marseilles for 1.85. That had been on the market for a while. Eventually they all sell, like everything, right? I learned that a long time ago. Everything sells, right? It's just a matter of, are you pricing it right for the condition of the property, the location of the property? The only thing that matters is, are you pricing it right? Being in the REO business as long as I was, I realized it doesn't even matter what condition the property is in. It matters how you price it, and are you pricing it properly? Would you agree with that, Wayne?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I'm noticing that I've got a potential listing coming up in Inverness, and the guy started talking to me a year ago. And all of a sudden he backed off for whatever reasons. And all of a sudden he's excited, plus another call in Glenview. And I'm looking at some of the prices over the last year or so and what's happened to them in these two markets. Because I don't follow every single local market. I look at it when I see, but to a transformation of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even my rental properties, I'm shocked at what I see. Some are worth these days in terms of what's selling in the MLS around there. So it varies so much. But I do think people have to realize, as you said, it's a local market, and you build your relationships in a local market, and don't get too hung up on what's going on nationally. It'll drive you crazy.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. You got to really drill it down and take a magnifying glass and look at what's going on in your local market and price your home right if you're selling it. You could have the greatest property in the world, nothing wrong with it, all the best finishes. If you price it, if you overprice it, it's going to sit on the market. If you price it right, you're going to fly off the market.
I've said this for years. There's nothing that price or terms can't cure with any listing. There's nothing that price or terms can't cure.
Yeah, no, it's 100% right. And we could talk till we're blue in the face. Most people still have this idea that let's price it high, we could always come down. No, that is not how you price a home. You got to price it right at market value. And I sometimes actually suggest to price it even just a tad below market value. Get as many eyes on it as possible from the start, because that's how you're going to drive the price up if you can get multiple offers on that property. What do you think?
Top agents have a potential that many agents don't have. It's called walkaway power. I don't need them all. I don't want them all. I ain't going to get them all.
You always got to be prepared to walk away from the table if you think you're going to be wasting your time.
A long time ago in life, you remember your first love, your second spouse, and your third realtor. Okay, walk away and don't worry about it, because if you're great, they'll come back to you when it didn't sell, and they're going to be even hungrier to price it right.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Hey, real quick, I just want to look at rates here, and, kind of a boring subject, because interest rates, folks, we are where we are. We're like right around 7%. 30-year fixed are about 6.91%. If you're looking at an FHA, VA, or even a 15-year, you're somewhere around 6.5%. And that's where we've been for a while. I don't think it's changing. What do you think, Patrick?
Well, and not in the short term. I mean, I'm seeing the same thing that you're seeing. I get to see each of these contracts that comes in. I see it after you guys have done what your job is to do, which is to negotiate and get all those terms in. And then I see on page 2, paragraph 7A, what's the interest rate. I'm always interested to see it. But yeah, it's been anywhere between high 6s and even up to like 8%. And it's been that way for a while. And honestly, you know, what I think is best, is to have interest rates somewhere in a stable place, because when they go up or they go down quickly, it really causes, it just messes with our minds in terms of expectations, realigning expectations, misaligning expectations. When everyone's getting an interest rate of 3.5%, all of a sudden it goes 2x that, and all of a sudden people are like, well, everything's unaffordable. It's like, I get it. Like, if you're strictly looking at the monthly payment, what it was or what it would have been and what it is now, the affordability of that is different for an individual. But in terms of the value of the real estate, that's not necessarily that much different.
Yeah. Wayne, what do you think about interest rates? Because I before you answer that question, so I went out yesterday. I was looking at a new car. I was looking at new cars, and interest rates on new car loans now are about 6-7%. And I was ready to pull the trigger. And then I thought, you know what? With these Fed rate cuts coming up, short-term interest rates may come down. So I'm thinking now, I'm not buying a new car at 6-7% at the rate, what you're paying for new cars now, plus 6-7% if you're not buying cash, which I'm not. You're looking at a hefty payment. So I'm thinking I'm going to wait and see our short-term interest rates, like for car loans, going to come down. What do you think about that, Wayne?
Well, obviously the Fed cutting 0.25% is not going to do much to anybody each time, just going to make me feel good. But I do think that from the standpoint of interest rates, I never get excited about them. I spend a lot of time, I teach a CIS designation, Certified Investment Agent Specialist. And I spend a lot of time looking at options. I'm noticing something all of a sudden, because this has been a part of my life. At the height of my investment cycle, I had 200 credit cards that I used to buy houses. And right now, I did a seminar in Houston. And at that time, Wells Fargo was offering a 0% balance transfer for 21 months.
Wow.
21 months. Now, that was probably 8-9 months ago. They were the first to do that. All of a sudden, I'm seeing in my mailbox many more balance transfers again at 0%. I just got a Chase. I just got somebody else's. So when they start doing that, I see a trend to come down. But I never worry about interest rates. If the numbers work, the numbers work. Plus, if I get into a house now, I can enjoy the appreciation. So,
and you think
there's a lot of ways around it. I think we're so used to the low rate. When it goes up, we get crazy.
Yeah.
My first property, I bought it 17% interest.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fine because the numbers worked. And I got.
When was that? That had to be like in the late 70s, early 80s?
Mid-80s, early 80s.
Yeah, early 80s. Okay. Yeah.
First house I ever sold was 21% prime rate.
Unreal.
And people bought houses. So, I mean,
that's crazy.
Interest rates are relative to what you saw in the past. Just like the thing with car loans. We're so used to 0%. Now it's at 2.9 and 3.9. We're going, oh my God, that's too high. That's too high. Hey, bottom line is, I don't get excited about interest rates. There's more to buying a home and enjoying it. If you break it down over time, it's not that much more a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. You got to look at the whole picture, not just interest rates. And I typically, here I'm saying that I'm going to hold off buying a new car to see if those short-term rates come down a little bit. And it's never a good bet to try and wait out the market, because you're not going to win that battle, I don't think. I just think, even for home buyers, we're at like around 7% right now. I don't see that really changing much in the short or midterm.
Here's where I see a potential housing problem that's popping up for bottom buyers. Insurance rates are skyrocketing because companies are pulling out of states.
Yeah.
Companies are changing what they're covering. We're looking at, I've got some property in Texas. They don't talk 1,000 deductible, 2,000. They talk 2-3% of the value as the deductible.
Holy cow! Yeah.
And State Farm's just starting that in Illinois. They're the first company in Illinois to go to a percent.
Why in Illinois would they start that? Why in Illinois?
Because they've had so many claims and there's no more predictability. It's almost impossible to predict an actuary.
Wait, so many claims in Illinois or nationally that they have.
Plus, if you watch what's happening to our tornado window, it's moving closer east. It's shifting east. And we're seeing more on the fringe of Iowa, Illinois. There's more claims. Nationwide pulled out of some places. Pekin Insurance, I had Pekin for years. They're changing and sometimes canceling. So I think you're going to see a lot of buyers who are going to bite the bullet, and the typical insurance rate is not going to be what they get, which is going to impact their PITI.
That's true. That's true. And let me add to that. So I totally agree. I mean, you look at places like Florida, it's like, I
was just going to bring up Florida.
If your property is at a certain value, it makes no economic sense to even get insurance, because if you're paying $13,000 a year, what's the point? Just self-insure. But the other thing that I'm seeing more and more of is in Florida, but here too, is condominiums with special assessments, deferred maintenance, capital improvements that have been they've been kicking the can down the road for however long. The longer that's been going on, and it happens in every condo, because make it the next owner's problem, is what often happens. And then I'm sat looking at the financials for a condo, and I go, this doesn't look so good. But more and more, and getting those condos warrantable is becoming more and more difficult, because of after Surfside happened, the collapse of the condo building in South Florida. Fannie tightened up their requirements. You're seeing a lot more of these special assessments to do the deferred work, and the hot potato is landing in people's hands. What can you do? You bought a place, and then 6 months later they hit you with a $30,000 special assessment.
Crazy.
It's like, wow. And it's happening more and more, and you just got to be so careful.
I just moved somebody back from Florida, and I'm about to move a very good friend of mine back from Florida now, for the exact reason that Wayne, you just brought up. The homeowners insurance in Florida is insane, and people are moving because they just can't afford it anymore. It's just not something they can do. So I've just moved 2 people back from Florida, one from Tampa, one from Northern Florida, to Chicago Metro. Yeah,
I think my sister, she lives down near Fort Lauderdale. I think she says she's paying $6,000 a year for insurance.
It's crazy.
That's what the number looks like.
I agree with Patrick's thought process. That's why I've never recommended, nor have I ever invested in condos as a real estate investment, because I can't control the assessments. If they go crazy, I can't raise the rents. The numbers don't work. It's such a gamble, because it's getting worse and worse with deferred maintenance and other issues, and in zoning changes and everything else. So I've never recommended, nor ever owned any investment condos.
Yeah, good point. You can't control assessments. We are going to take a 30-second break. We're going to be right back, and we're going to talk about some of the changes coming up August 17th, and we'll see you in 30 seconds.
Tune in to Real Estate Radio, Saturdays at 9 a.m., hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com. Top-performing agents for 2% commission, saving you thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Real Estate Radio, the ultimate real estate radio experience. Get insider tips from experts throughout the real estate industry. Streaming live on Facebook at WCPT 820. Trusted Agent USA, Illinois, license number 475-145795. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio, sponsored in part by TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, saving you thousands. Now back to Larry, the real estate therapist.
All right, everybody, we are back, and we're happy to have you joining us here today on July 27th, 2024. We are joined by Wayne Paprocki. Wayne is a real estate broker, national trainer, former president of NASBAR, the North Shore Barrington Association of Realtors. And we're also joined by Patrick Loftus, a well-known Chicago Metro real estate attorney. And we're going to jump right in now to our topic here of what is coming up on August 17th. There are some changes coming up that are going to affect consumers, they're going to affect agents, and, you know, to what degree, I don't know, but whichever one of you guys would like to jump in and take this, what exactly are the major changes happening right now?
All right, the two changes stated as succinctly as possible. Number one, they're removing the percentage of the broker co-op from the MLS listings. So if you're representing a buyer in a real estate transaction, you won't know what the broker co-op, what your portion of the commission is going to be from just simply looking at the listing. Number two is if you represent a buyer, you must have a signed written agreement with them setting forth the terms of the agreement.
Yeah, I think those are the two major things. Wayne, you want to jump in on that and drill that down at all, or?
Well, there's no doubt exactly that. There's no more co-op compensation offered through the multiple listing service. But according to the settlement, there are options to use as long as it's outside the MLS. It's going to be a company decision as to how they want their agents to pursue what kinds of other ways they will show any kind of compensation, or if they will. But it's going to change tremendously how agents do their seller counseling sessions and how buyers do their counseling sessions, because that compensation process has to be agreed. And the written agreement, I mean, I did this many years ago. I have two things I can say I'm proud of in my career. One of which is in 40 years, I have never had anybody in my car that did not sign a buyer agency agreement. It was basically indirectly sign or get out of my car.
And let me ask you, with that agreement that you did in the past, did it indicate on there, I will get paid one way or another? Either the seller will pay me or you will pay me.
It did that, and it also did one more thing that I just talked with Betsy Urbans, Illinois Realtor Legal Counsel, about doing. Obviously, sometimes what I agreed to with a buyer was more or less than what the seller agreed to offer as co-op compensation. So I would offset. So if I said I'll do it for 3% and the other side said we'll do the same co-op, it balanced out. But what if the person that was offering compensation did it for less? I could collect from the buyer if I wanted to. On the other hand, I always, if by chance my fee to the buyer was less than what the seller was offering me, I gave the buyer a rebate, because in Illinois, rebates are legal. I cannot keep that money. So I was giving rebates out many times if I had buyers, because the co-op compensation was greater than my signed buyer agreement.
And as far as rebates go, is it legal to rebate anybody that is directly involved in the transaction? Is that legal?
According to license law, it is. If you're a party to the transaction as the buyer seller, that agent can rebate.
And that's what I thought.
Tax purposes, and at the closing is a accounting decision. Yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of rebates, Patrick?
Not yet. I feel like up until now, I think more or less people are just pretending like nothing's changing. I know I've spoken to a handful of agents about, whatever, this topic, and, there's been trainings, there's different things happening behind the scenes, but as of right now, because those changes have not gone into effect, I think everyone's just going status quo. I've heard a handful of discussions about broker co-ops being less than the typical 2.5%, and I have seen some, not many, but a few buyers have had to come to the table with some extra money for their agent. But
now I have seen that too. So the one thing that I've seen, Wayne, since this has all become an issue and we know it's coming, I have already seen buyer agency co-op commissions start to come down, where you're no longer now seeing what we would, we don't like to say typically, or what is, there is no standard for commission. I'm not going anywhere near there, but in the past, it's been about 2.5% in Illinois. I'm seeing now anywhere from 2 to 2.5%, rarely more than that. But also what I'm not seeing is sellers refusing to pay a buyer agency commission, offering that. Because if you go on the MLS right now, I guarantee you, if you look at 100 listings, 90 to 95, and more than 95 of them probably are going to have co-op commissions there for buyers agents. Wayne, are you seeing the same thing?
Well, that's because until August 17th, technically it doesn't have to change. But after August 17th, I mean, I think we have a strong issue for what I said earlier. There's going to have to be a tremendous change. And I'm doing a lot of training along that line with some companies on seller counseling sessions to make sure sellers understand the pros and cons of not offering or offering compensation in some way, and buyers agents presenting to buyers about what they should or shouldn't do regarding that process. And we see the VA at least has so far said they can roll it into their price, and maybe mortgage people will do something along those lines. But I just think that's where the training has to come, because a weak agent's going to be balking when they get that challenge or that hesitation about, well, I'm not going to pay it if I don't have to. And in Texas, interesting conversations between agents. And the story is, let's pretend we have a $100,000 listing. And let's pretend that the commission is X percent with a co-op of half that, whatever the number is. I don't care. So now, if we pull out the co-op compensation and the $100,000 listing is on the market, but the seller is not going to pay anything to the buyer side, can the listing agent take their share that they would have taken, so the seller nets the same price without paying the full compensation to both sides, which means will prices come down? Because if there's a $6,000 commission split $3,000 a piece, the seller's going to get 94 if it sells for 100. But if the buyer side's not being paid anymore, they can sell it for 97 and still net 94. And so they're concerned, very validly, will prices come down because maybe a lot of selling agents won't offer compensation. And so I don't have to have my house priced as high, because I'm still going to net my same amount of money by not paying a total package that goes to the co-op broker anymore. That's a discussion.
I agree with you on prices, because here's the thing. So if a buyer sees a house that they love, but the seller is not offering a co-op compensation to the buyer agency. So now on just, let's say, a $500,000 home, that's an additional $12,500 that the buyer now has to bring to the table to pay their agent. Guess who's going to end up paying for that on any offer? The seller. The buyer's going to come in with a lower price to compensate for that commission they now have to bring to the table. What do you think?
In the short term, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the immediate effect of this, because, well, you know, in most of the markets that I am working in, it's still very competitive. I think that what you'll see, even if a buyer has that in their mind, they're still going to be aggressive in that offer, because they want to win. You know, if there's an attractive piece of real estate, and it's in the right school district. It's got
once they're emotionally into it. They're buying it.
They're gonna do all kinds of mental gymnastics to
but
get their
they
brains
still have
around
to
it.
come up with that 12.5.
They'll figure it out if they can. Now that's short term, but I think in the long term, I think that people, it's so easy to just sort of imagine that the world is going to continue on the way it is right now. But Larry, you went through it. I went through it in the late 2000s and the early 2010s. Whatever this feeling you're having as a buyer, it was the opposite. And same with the seller. Okay. And I don't think we're going to, hopefully in my lifetime, experience such a stark buyer's market. But we will eventually. You don't. I don't know when. That's the whole key. The when is the thing that is not possible to know. It will become a buyer's market again, and then we're going to be having the same discussion, but it's going to be the opposite about, well, maybe we can offer an additional percent to the buyer's agent to get them more interested in showing the property. And so, sellers, get it while it's good now, but understand that someday
that worm turns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing the market does, it never, ever stays the same. It's either tilting one way or the other.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, Wayne, I and Patrick as well, I think it's hard to predict. Okay, I mean, we could sit here and prognosticate all we want. We can sit here and try and predict the future. But the reality of it is we're going to get 12 months into this. Then we're going to look in our rearview mirror and see how has this affected consumers? How has it affected agents? How has it affected the behavior of sellers that for decades and decades have been paying co-op commissions? Is that going to change just like that because of that? I don't think so. I think that has to happen organically. I don't think just because this has changed in terms of the rules that sellers are just going to stop offering co-op commissions. I think that has to happen organically if it's going to happen. What do you think, Wayne?
Well, that's exactly why I feel that these counseling sessions take on a whole new meaning. I spent a lot of time in my negotiation seminars reading from Harvard and other people. And Bob Cialdini is like the genius on influence. He's got great books and persuasion. And so I've come up with a program that I've been sharing with people on some powerful persuasion principles, because you got to persuade before you persuade. So much of a buyer counseling session and seller counseling session is going to set them up for the pros and cons, almost like a Ben Franklin close. The pluses and minuses of not doing or doing and doing are going to make a huge difference. And this is where I see the success of agents who are solid at presenting some good persuasion principles once they persuaded people to realize it's changed, but you really got to take a look at the full picture here. It's just that it's not being offered through the MLS automatically anywhere. There's all kinds of options. Some companies have tremendous forms already. The California Association is going through some tremendous changes. Some a lot of people don't like. I just was talking to a broker in California about it. It just blows my mind, the stuff they're looking to put into their forms. That will probably float this way because the wind blows from California east. But yeah, they're like looking at things I never thought of. And so I really feel the key is persuasion principles that are solid and persuading people so I can start to persuade people, setting them up.
Yeah.
To understand what happened, and it's not much different except how it's implemented. There's still going to be money moving around.
Well, the other thing is how much are sellers and consumers paying attention to all this? So do most sellers know now that beginning August 17th, hey, I don't have to pay a co-op commission anymore. I'm not paying a co-op commission. Or do most,
Here's what's going to happen. August 17th is the first day they can send out those postcards and those releases if we're going to opt in or opt out of the settlement. So that's going to create a lot of new people looking at, never looked at it before, because I get this card in the mail or it's online that says I can opt in or opt out to a settlement because of this beginning our deal. So that's going to bring some conversation, which I'm starting to tell people, what are some of the best ways to prepare yourself to answer that? Because it's going to be a question. Because you're right.
By the way, always fill those out.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, you never know. I got one a couple years ago, and I'm sorry, Wayne, for jamming my nose in what you were saying, but I got one a couple years ago for my old car. I had a Subaru, and there was something about the airbag. Filled it out, sent it in. I got a check for like $300.
300?
Yeah, like a few, months later.
Holy cow! Those attorneys were generous.
I'll tell you what, the best one I ever got was my bar review class. I got 2, and it was like I think I paid $2,000 or $2,500 for that. I certainly got my value because I passed the bar exam. as far as I know. But I ended up getting like 1,500 of it back after a couple of class action lawsuits.
Holy
Always
cow.
fill those things out, folks.
Yeah, I'm
Class
just
action.
saying that's going to create the publicity we haven't seen, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
going to be blasted out to millions of people.
And that's going to tell them they could opt in or
Well,
opt
now
out.
they're going to say, what's this all about? Then they maybe Google an article about it and read something in settlement. There's where you're going to have to start being ready to explain what happened in this thing and why it's implemented and the pros and cons as you do your listing session and your buyer session with people.
Yeah.
That's where
Yes.
if a bad agent is weak on that, they're going to get eaten alive by that person.
Yeah.
And so what those cards are, and it's anymore, it's usually an email. But what those are notices that you are potentially a member of a class in a class action. The point of a class action is that I've got, tens, hundreds, thousands of plaintiffs with a similar lawsuit against a defendant or a group of defendants. And instead of having 1,000 lawsuits, you have one lawsuit to adjudicate the whole thing. And then that ends it for the defendant. So it's good for the plaintiff's lawyer because they get paid a lot of money. The representative plaintiffs, they get a little something for them. But the defendant, what's great about it for a defendant is that's it. So if you're a member of a class and you don't either opt in or opt out, that's it. You don't have that lawsuit anymore. So opting in means just pay me whatever my share is. And that's what most people do if they're going to get involved. Opting out means I don't want to be a part of that. You don't have to. They can't force you to be part of that class. You can opt out, file your own lawsuit. And there's some kooks that do that, and you could probably make some money doing that.
Opt out and follow their own lawsuit.
Yeah,
that's
just go on Pacer.
I think I'm going to do that with this whole thing.
You should. I please keep me updated on that because I like a good laugh.
Exactly.
Well, gentlemen, here's the whole dilemma. This whole thing, after all this happens, the predictions are everybody who opts in will get about $30 tops.
Thank you.
Sounds about right.
Exactly. When you told me $300, I'm like,
hey.
Really? Those were really nice class action attorneys.
I'm just saying, you never know. So it might be 30, it might be 300, it might be a free Red Bull.
Yeah.
You just don't know. But how long does it take you to fill the thing out? I'll share with you. There's a website where you can go and they'll kind of tell you about all these class actions that are going on. And like there's one ESPN Plus. I don't know. I don't even know what it is. I just know that I'm an ESPN Plus subscriber, and so I might be able to get some money from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope ESPN's not a.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot that's going to take place, and I'm still of the mind that we really don't know how this is going to affect consumers, agents, the market in general, behaviors, and I think we're really going to be able to know a little more like a year down the line when we look over our shoulder and say, hey, so what's happened? What's changed?
Here's the dilemma that scares me.
What's that?
Here's the dilemma that scares me in terms of getting agents ready.
Yeah.
We just did a survey of our membership at NASBAR. We have close to 4,000 members. 82% of our members are in offices under 10 agents. A lot of those people don't get a lot of training. There's no corporate attorney going out stuff. And in a couple of states, and one trainer specifically who I've been on a stage with, we're following each other across the country, he's of the opinion that every company should create its own forms and not use an MLS form, not use a board form, not use a state realtor form in case there's another lawsuit, so they're not going to be sucked in because they use somebody else's form. That's his whole presentation, convincing people to have their own corporate attorney create their own forms for company use only. That's his theory, and he's spreading it across the country. Every place I go, I hear the same story from him.
I kind of have the opposite opinion on
I
that.
know.
I'm just saying, I'm not agreeing with you. I'm just saying that's his whole point, and he's got a lot of followers, and he's got a lot of seminars.
Does he also know a lot of attorneys that are, getting paid to draft these things? Because, if I was one of those lawyers, I'd want to be like paying for his airfare to go around and drum up business for me. I mean, I think ultimately, like you said, Larry, we're not going to see a switch get flipped on August 17th.
Yeah.
August 17th is a big date for you, for me, for everyone else who's closely tied to real estate. But for anyone else, it's just whatever day of the week it is. It's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You will find, there are some there are some people who are just real estate perverts, right?
Yeah.
And so they are really, really, even though they're not closely connected to real estate, they're just into it, right?
They
So,
have a real estate fetish. Yes.
well,
you know.
they kind of do. And,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that pop up in my comment section on social
Well, once
media.
you're in real estate, you never leave.
Well, it's
You just never retire. You never leave. You just keep doing this. Am I right, Wayne?
Old realtors never die. They just become listless.
Exactly.
But
Hey,
let me tell
listen.
you something else. As you talk about this,
Yeah.
I think you will see on the 17th a lot of agents who, for whatever reason, don't explain this very well. And here's my dilemma. I teach negotiation seminars. No matter how much I role play, they want more role playing. And I'm guessing very, very, very few agents will be practicing, drilling, and rehearsing their new presentations.
No,
And
100%.
they're
I
gonna fall
agree with
back on
you.
what they used to say and create more problems because
Yeah.
most agents don't practice, drill, and rehearse enough in this business. They
Well,
just don't
that's
do it.
no, of course they don't. And the funny thing, not the funny thing, but how many lawsuits are going to come out of this?
You took the words out of my mouth, Larry.
Yeah, I mean,
People like me are not going to go hungry.
you are not going to go hungry at all, Patrick. Hey, before we wrap up, first of all, thanks for joining us today, Patrick, Wayne. This was a great conversation. I wish we had more time. The hour flies by every single Saturday, right?
Always.
Patrick, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, follow me on social media. That's all I ask in return for, the untold amounts of legal advice you'll ask me to give for free. Find me on Instagram, Loftus_law, or follow me on TikTok at Loftus Law.
And Wayne, what about you? And why are they getting in touch with you?
Well, first of all, yes, I'm on Facebook a lot. It's Wayne at WaynePaprocki.com if they want to see me there. But if they search Facebook, they'll find me, and I'm marketing a whole new social media platform for a large company called North Star.
I saw that.
They've been doing entertainment marketing of athletes who have endorsements. We're bringing it to the real estate board, and it's powerful, most powerful tool I've ever seen with identifying 5 social medias and comparing your competitors. So
Yeah, I saw that
across the country. So that's going to be a biggie all of a sudden. So I'll be doing a lot of RMS plus my investment agent training, CIS, and my other seminars. So just Wayne Paprocki, or, who's this Wayne guy? How can he help me? And something will pop up.
Awesome. Yeah, search for either of these guys online. If you guys are looking to buy, sell, or invest, and I can help you, you can give me a call at 630-921-0611, or you can just go to trustedagentusa.com. Click on cash offer, get a cash offer. Click on sell my home, and see your selling options. You have options. So you guys, thank you for joining us. This has been awesome. You're welcome back anytime. I'll probably hijack you from your wife on Saturday morning again, Patrick, sometime in the future. And it was awesome having you on, Wayne. All of you, both you guys.
Well, you can call me back because I'm lonely, so I'll be glad to show up anytime.
You I will.
Now, you said this show is full contact. Remember, there's a restraining order in place, Larry.
That's right. No, I understand. All right, you guys, thank you for joining us on the Real Estate Radio Show this Saturday, and we'll see you next Saturday, same time, same place, 9 a.m.
Thanks for joining us on Real Estate Radio with your host, Larry Shakman, the real estate therapist and